Okay, so welcome. Thanks for joining us for our workshop on using literature to increase LGBTQ plus cultural proficiency. My name is Stephanie, and I work at the Santa Cruz County Office of Education as an EdTech and Innovation Teacher on Special Assignment, or TOSA. This is my third year with the Santa Cruz COE. Prior to that, I taught third grade at Bonnie Doon Elementary School, but I've also taught upper elementary and middle school, and I'm really passionate about using technology to support students and teachers. And I'm lucky that I get to partner with Rob a lot to support an equity initiative for LGBTQ plus cultural proficiency.
Yep, and I'm Rob Darrow. As I was sharing earlier, I grew up in Santa Cruz, went through Santa Cruz City Schools, and I'm a product of those schools. I went on and became a teacher, and I've worked in education. It's weird to say, over 40 years now. But I do teach the credential program at CSU Monterey Bay. So every elementary school teacher out of CSU Monterey Bay has seen me as an instructor for the last 3 years. And as I tell many people, the future is bright because I meet all these students as they're getting excited about teaching. So I am on contract with the county office as the LGBTQ plus support consultant. And then I also work with the Santa Cruz Safe Schools Project that works with schools and districts across Santa Cruz County to help our schools be more inclusive of all students, but especially LGBTQ plus students.
And like I mentioned before, we work together a lot. So here's some of the projects that Rob and I have collaborated on in the past. We've been working, I'm not sure if you've seen or have raised the rainbow flag at your school site, but we've been working on that. So getting school sites and districts to raise the rainbow flag in May in honor of Harvey Milk's birthday. We shared a presentation about that at the Spring Q conference in 2022 to try to get other schools and districts in California to follow suit. We collect and curate resources and put on trainings for LGBTQ plus History Month, which, if you're not familiar with, is in October. So this workshop is super timely, getting you set up to support that in your library. And we've also presented at Educator workshops at the MON. We have one coming up, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, November 4th. Is that correct?
Is that right?
I think so.
I didn't see the new date, so.
Oh, okay. It's the first Friday in November.
In November, okay.
Yeah. And I think we've already spent a little bit of time hearing about us today in terms of who you are and your position and your organization. So it's nice to see, as Rob said, that we have 2 elementary school librarians.
One person from Santa Cruz City Schools and one person from PVUSD. So that's perfect.
Yeah. So today for our time together, we're going to give an introduction and overview on the LGBTQ plus lit project that we worked on, including the book lists that were created. We'll dig in and take a look at the book lists and then think through, in your lens, in your position as the librarian for an elementary school, how do you think you might use the book list? What books are of interest to you? And then we'll spend some time with closure and answering any lingering questions that come up. The goal is really to think about how using literature can increase LGBTQ plus proficiency. And we really intentionally left out student proficiency because we wanted to think about how it not only improves our students' proficiency, but also our own. As we learn about the book lists, as we read the books, our proficiency is increased as well. Just a quick note as we go through the presentation that please don't be shy about stopping us to ask any questions as we go. So whether you feel comfortable putting that in the chat or if you want to unmute your mic, we are a small group. So this really is for you and to get your questions answered. So please ask them as we move along.
So for our beginning here, our introductions and overview, we wanted just to set some background information so that you had it. In our next slide, these are all the different concepts that people need to know about the LGBTQ plus culture. We know that few of us, as we grew up on our schools, wherever we grew up, learn much about how to support LGBTQ plus students or learning about the LGBTQ plus culture. And these are all areas that schools should be focused on as they become more proficient as both as professionals and each of us individually as we go through. Our focus today really is on pedagogy and strategies to teach LGBTQ plus history in particular and related to literature in our literature list. So we're more down at that bottom part. We're not going to talk about these other pieces. We're going to focus on the curriculum and literature piece. And just so that you're all aware, there are a number of laws that have been passed in California. California is the only state that has all these laws in place. And just to remind all of us, throughout the United States, how we do education is determined by each state, and our state constitution determines these directions, and the state laws are passed by our state legislature. So we've, back in 2011, there was a law called the Fair Education Act that said that everybody in schools should be integrating LGBTQ plus history and social science in the curriculum. And then we passed another law in 2015 that talks about sex ed and how gender and sexual orientation should be included when that topic is taught in your schools. And overall, the state history frameworks and all of the frameworks that determine how we teach and what we teach all have a chapter on equity that address all these pieces as well. So just so you know, that's where the laws are and why we do what we do. On the next slide, we just wanted to give you some quick background data. The California Healthy Kids Survey is given to all students. It's interesting knowing that your elementary school teachers, at the 7th, 9th, and 11th grade, they added 2 questions to the California Healthy Kids Survey about 5 years ago. One was about gender identity and the other about sexual orientation. They did not add that question at the 5th grade level because they just didn't think students could really identify what that is. But so these are results from 7th through 11th grade throughout Santa Cruz County. The important part here is to note when you disaggregate the data, this question was, have you seriously considered suicide in the past year? You can see what the percentage of LGBTQ students is versus non-LGBTQ. In Santa Cruz, you can see there's a 27% gap, which is a smaller gap than we see in California. We believe over time, as we do workshops like this and other related topics to supporting LGBTQ plus students, that this gap will get smaller. And then the second question we pulled out was, have you been harassed or bullied because you were gay or lesbian or someone thought you were? And again, you can see the gaps and the differences between LGBTQ and non-LGBTQ students. The other topic we always just talk about in general is, if there are resistant voices about LGBTQ topics or literature or history, you've got the laws there. And both of your districts, Santa Cruz City Schools and PVSD, have policies in place that say all these things. Sometimes when parents question, and of course we've worked you've all worked in school libraries, so you've probably encountered parents who don't think certain books should be in there, and you know how to handle that because you've handled it. But it's just important to remember that across your district, you have a statement about equity. You've got policies that support that. You can say it's the law. And then across the county, our Safe Schools Project put forth this statement that's on the next slide that really basically says that, if anybody who asks, we just tell them our policies and procedures are aligned with the California Education Code, which includes LGBTQ plus students and their families and all families, because we want to promote a positive school and learning climate for all students and all families. And within our families, we have LGBTQ plus students and families. And one other data piece just to keep in mind is We estimate from the different surveys that have been given over the years that about 10% of the population identifies somewhere on the LGBTQ plus spectrum. So out of a class of 30 students, that means there's 3 students that are, you know, figuring out their gender and sexual orientation in any classroom. So just wanted to make sure you all knew that. And with that, I think we'll go on to the next slide here that talks about.
Perfect. Thanks, Rob. Windows and mirrors. So I just wanted to share this idea. You know, Rob spoke to the idea that the reason we put on workshops like this is hoping to really close that gap in the data and to provide the magic of windows and mirrors for the students that are in our school. And I see your heads nodding, and knowing that you're both librarians, I'm imagining that you probably have some familiarity with windows and mirrors already. Okay, seeing eyebrows and head nods. So I'll just do a quick review just to remind you. And I do want to credit a teacher named Kristen Prentice, who put this slideshow on Teachers Pay Teachers for free. So this little part is from her. If it's something that's helpful to bring back to your site, it's linked in our slides, of course, but you can also find it on Teachers Pay Teachers. And it's about how the windows and mirrors in literature really open up new perspectives. So Windows and Mirrors was initially introduced by Emily Stile for the National Seed Project. And a mirror is, of course, a story that reflects your own culture and helps you to build your own identity. And a window is a resource that offers you a view into someone else's experience. And so we're really hoping that this list of books can provide windows and mirrors for those 10%, right, that Rob talked about, and also for the other students in the class to get an insight into the LGBTQ plus experience.
Before you leave that slide, the way you just said that, if you could go back. So that's a really important part you just brought up. The fact that with LGBTQ plus related titles, that becomes a mirror for LGBTQ plus students. And it becomes a window for non-LGBTQ plus students. And the more we learn about all the cultures that we serve, all the cultures mentioned in the Fair Education Act, the more inclusive and the more sense of belonging all students feel in our schools.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, so mirrors are important because, like Rob said, when you read about characters that are like you feel a sense of belonging and feel appreciated for who you are. You have an opportunity to personally connect with the struggles that the characters have, and you can understand the themes that the book reveals. And similarly, in terms of windows help you to develop an understanding of the wider world. You can connect with and identify similarities between yourself and others, and you learn about how you might fit into the larger world. So reading fiction or literature helps us build empathy for people that we've never met, go to places that we've never seen, and live lives that we couldn't possibly experience. So reading fiction becomes the playground, right, for our imagination, and it's a place where you can still play pretend. So it's really important that we provide those windows and mirrors to our students when we're selecting the books for our libraries. On this slide, I'm not going to go through all of them, but there's some great options for questions that you could use. So April, you mentioned this idea of having students come in for story time, right? And I'm sure, Megan, you have a similar structure at your school for students visiting the library. These are all questions that you can use during a read aloud or when students read a book on their own that can really prompt them to be reflecting on books in terms of windows and mirrors. If you wanted to do some further learning, we've collected 3 videos for you that help to talk a little bit more about windows and mirrors. And the one on the left talks about the additional piece of sliding glass doors. So if you want to continue your learning on windows and mirrors, those are available for you. So for us, our why is that when students feel safe, supported, and included in their school, their learning increases, their engagement increases, and more students graduate from high school who are college and career ready. We want all of our students to feel safe, supported, included, and that they belong in our schools. All of the things that we've mentioned, so learning about LGBTQ plus related literature, reading literature, teaching LGBTQ plus lessons, celebrating and teaching LGBTQ plus History Month in October, raising the rainbow flag, and celebrating Harvey Milk's birthday are all important ways to make LGBTQ plus students feel safe and visible in the curriculum and for us to learn about their culture. So we're going to pause for a second and just ask what's your why, or why you joined us here today. I know that we talked a little bit about it in the beginning, and I'm actually not going to use the Slido since there's just two of us. I feel like that's silly. So I invite, if you feel comfortable, to sort of share out loud or to put in the chat, just again, thinking about what brought you to today's session.
I'm April. I'm at Baby Elementary, and I felt like anytime I can get this looked like a really great presentation, so and a great resource for our students. So I'm hoping to bring back some maybe great books or great ways to help support our community.
Perfect. Thanks, April. And Megan?
At all?
Oh, now we can, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm adjusting my screen to see if you can.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yeah.
My why to come was, for every 5 students and families that I have that want more and more LGBTQ representation in the library, there's one who's extremely oppositional and vocal. And then, of course, their children as well come, with an attitude that LGBTQ is inappropriate. And they bring that to the library, and they bring that to the school. So for me, it's about, reinforcing phrases or words, just, learning about the laws and hearing things again is very supportive to me. So I have the right things to say and handle the situations in the most effective way, to not just keep a safe environment for my LGBTQ kids and families, but also to help the kids who have been taught that it's not appropriate, to not make them feel bad for their viewpoint, but also to try to open up those windows a little bit deeper or a little bit more, so they can feel safe to talk about, what it is, or what, have these difficult conversations, where that's coming from.
Thanks, Megan. I appreciate that. And we were hoping, that's what we were hoping with the earlier slides, is that would give some verbiage and some explanation that you could use to sort of explain to families or students that needed that. I'm going to pass it back to Rob to explain a little bit more about the origins of our literature project.
Several years ago, a young person in Scotts Valley came up with this concept of the Purple Sticker Project. At the time, this person identified as female, but was transforming into male and goes by he, him pronouns now. He's now a senior and came up with the Purple Sticker Project with the idea of putting purple stickers on books in libraries to identify queer-related books that have positive LGBTQ plus characters in part of them. And so that was their project. You'll see on the agenda that I'll link in the chat in just a minute. It's in the chat, the agenda there. You'll see a link to the Purple Sticker Project, and you can hear all about Q and how they came up with the idea and why it was important. But it kind of gets back to, Megan, what you were just talking about, which was, for kids seeing representation of themselves and treating all people similarly, that when you start reading about other characters other than yourself, then you gain that kind of reading. So we brought together a group of about 12, 15 people a year ago, or last January, and the group then set forth the criteria by which we chose these books. We had librarians, public librarians, school librarians, a couple teachers, and other people who love reading books to come together to talk about this. We had people from all the different districts represented here. You can see some of their names on this slide. And then we divided ourselves up into 4 groups. And again, Stephanie and I kind of set this criteria. Having been teachers, we knew it was important for, people at the K2 level have a certain kind of book. The people at the 3rd through 5th grade level have a different kind of book. Those from 6 through 8 middle school, and then 9 through 12 high school. So we wanted to identify the top 10 books in each category that fit the LGBTQ plus culture and that people would benefit from reading them. So this combined group then came up with 10 titles from each. We had several meetings. We went back and forth. Several groups had trouble whittling it down to just the 10, but I insisted on that because I know that, as educators, we're busy. As school librarians, we have a little more time to look at a variety of books, but it's good to know what the best books are. Our criteria was that we wanted to find books that were published within the last 10 years that had positive representation of LGBTQ plus people and that represented a diverse group of characters. So in this collection, you'll find main characters who are non-binary. You'll find characters who are lesbian. You'll find characters who are gay. You'll find characters who are transgender. And I got to just tell you, having been a school librarian and looking at titles around LGBTQ plus over the last 6 years, there's just been an explosion of wonderful, wonderful stories told from wonderful perspectives by families, individuals. I mean, every family structure you can think of is represented in all of these books in some ways. So even if you never share them with any of your students, read them for yourselves because you learn a lot from all of them. I took part of the summer to do that. So, and Stephanie, why don't we move to the next slide and just kind of go through show everybody the collection of books on our website. Again, you can see the K2 list there. And again, you can click on our website and see those there, the 3rd through 5th grade list, the 6th through 8th grade list, and then the high school list. And I'll just comment about the 3rd through 5th grade list. It just happens Stephanie and I were both on that subcommittee. And it's hard finding books for that reading level for students, a little bit more than a picture book, but not a full chapter book, right? There's only so many books in general, but we were excited to find some graphic novels, some picture books in that 3rd through 5th grade list. I think K2 is a lot easier. That the range of picture books is there's a lot of picture books out there, but this, beginning reading, beginning chapter books, I'm really pretty happy with how that list turned out. So with that, I think we'll move on and talk about some of those titles to let you know that we ended up with 40 books. And then over the summer, we had a group of teachers work on curriculum guides, and they're still working on those as we've got them started. And we're going to share some of them with you. But perhaps you saw the article. Oh, I'll have to put this link on the agenda as well so you see it. Here was the Good Times article. We did a press conference in June to announce the books, and we had a great group of people that came together, lots of excitement. We then realized that, in the ideal world, we'd find somebody to donate, $150,000 so we could purchase these books for all the school libraries. We haven't worked on that part of the phase yet, but you all know from purchasing books that it takes a while. Go ahead, Megan.
In PVUSD, we've been receiving LGBTQ books, but it's not from this group.
Correct. Yeah.
There's a parent group in PVUSD that's been buying books.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we've been getting. I'm not exactly clear where it's coming from, but there's some parent initiative group that's working in PVUSD, and they've been the last 2 years. I think I've gotten 2 or 3 shipments of books to make sure we all have the same
Yeah.
ones in our
If you,
libraries.
so that's good to know. In PVUSD, there's a group of parents that are helping to purchase these books. If you happen to find the email related to that or anything related to
Yeah.
that, send it my way. It makes me, I'm part of the PVUSD LGBTQ plus task force. So I'll reach out back to the people in charge there and see if they happen to know who the parents who've been
Yeah,
doing
I
this
have
are,
we're
because
not really sure. At first, books were just showing up, and we're like, "Where are these coming from?" And
yeah,
then, oh, there's some group
yeah,
and parents and this, and okay, so we take them, and it's great, but I don't know much about it. So hopefully, they can get linked in with you guys so that
yeah.
it's more
Yeah, so
collaborative.
what you're describing is the reason that we were very careful about the books we selected. And then also over the summer identified specific books to do curriculum guides on that we knew would be especially useful for teachers. Because some of these titles could be, can be literature sets for, whole classes, especially at the 4th and 5th grade level. Yeah, both your class schools just go up to 5th grade, right?
Mine goes to 6th grade.
6th grade, okay, yeah.
TK through 6.
Right, gotcha. Anyway, so we thought about all of those as well. So this was the article that was written, and then we've got a couple of the curriculum guides that we're going to share with you here. And again, they're linked on our agenda. But the list is on our website, and again, you can click on that link and it'll take you there. Why don't we go on to so there's also on the website, on the list of links that we have for this workshop, there's a separate PDF that lists all the books. And then I think, Stephanie, could I ask you to?
I think you're reading my mind. Is it okay if I hop over to the website for
Yeah.
a second? Okay.
Well, I was going to ask you to go
Perfect.
to the agenda we have so we can
Yeah.
go on some of those links. Why don't you go ahead and go to the agenda, click on the literature list link, and then I'd love to show them the link that goes to the description of all the books as well. But go ahead and show the website.
Okay. So in the chat, I just put a list to the website that goes directly to the book list page. So you'll see on the website, there's some other pages. There's a home page that talks a little bit about the project and talks about the team, like Rob was talking about our task force and the story of Q. And then there's information for teachers that joined our curriculum writing cohort. But the book lists are also listed here. So we wanted to make them as accessible as possible. And we know that everybody likes to access information in different ways. So there's a top 40 list in PDF form, but then there's also a top 40 list in Google Doc. And I love the PDF that you made, Rob, because it's cute, it's printable, and it's just on one page, and that has all of the books from the book list. Is there something else you wanted me to show?
I'll put the link in the chat. So I can't take credit for that PDF. A student graphic artist did that. So I'll let her know how much you all appreciated it. And then I realized that, as teachers, as librarians and teachers, it's nice to have a quick description of all these books. So for this workshop, if you just kind of scroll down, Stephanie, they'll see that for each one of the books that's been selected, there's a short description there. And where I knew the information, I included things like the ethnicity of the main characters and their LGBTQ plus status and that sort of thing. I was telling Stephanie earlier that as you read the different books, some books are much more, I think, more girls would like it than guys, and some books, and that's just how it is. Some of the are more guy related. But just so you know, this document's there for you with a description. I think probably about 4 to 6 of the books are graphic novels, which I know that whole genre has developed a lot over the last 20 years, and several of those are LGBTQ plus related that we selected as well.
Yeah, and I have to say, like, looking back through the list, I'm getting excited again, again about the books. Like, oh yeah, I love that one. I'm so excited that one made it on. And
Yeah.
we did have Ivy from Bookshop, who works in the education or the youth department at Bookshop Santa Cruz. And so she was a part of our task force team, and her insight was really invaluable because, you know, students come to Bookshop on their own, right? They're not assigned by teachers to pick out the books. So she was able to tell us like what students were choosing and what was flying off the shelves at Bookshop. And so that really did influence a lot of the list to make sure that the titles that were on there would be appealing to students as well.
Yeah, and since you brought up Bookshop Santa Cruz, I think the other statistic she shared with our group was that the queer literature section of Bookshop Santa Cruz is one of the most purchased books, types of books in Bookshop Santa Cruz. There are lots and lots of interest. So that was good to know.
That was good to know. I remember
Yeah.
that too.
Why don't we go back to our slides and
Okay.
I'll just mention the two curriculum. Oh, this one's yours. Why don't you talk about this curriculum guide and I'll talk about the next one.
Yeah. And so for this one, like Rob mentioned, we gathered a group of teachers who are working on writing curriculum guides for some of the top picks from each of the book list sections. And it was a task that was started over the summer, and a lot of them are still in process. So we're going to show you two of the ones that are closest to completion. So this is a curriculum guide that was developed for The Moon Within, which is a book that's on our 3rd through 5th grade list. And what I love about this one that really fits with both Latinx History Month and LGBTQ History Month is that the teacher who was developing this guide went ahead and developed some sort of translation and Spanish vocabulary to go along with the book. And it has a female Latinx author. And this was one of the books, I don't know if you remember, Rob, but there were a few titles that like a couple of grade bands were sort of arm wrestling for. And this was one of the ones that there were a few grade bands that wanted to claim this book as their own. So this, I'm really excited to see that this curriculum guide has been developed.
Great.
Robin, I'm going to turn it over to you for the secondary one.
Yeah, so I'm going to put that other link in the chat so everybody has it. I just figure it's easier there. So this curriculum guide, the last night at the Telegraph Club, is set in San Francisco, in Chinatown in San Francisco. And it's about a high school Chinese American girl who realizes she's lesbian and starts hanging out with this other girl, and then learns about this place in San Francisco called the Telegraph Club. And so she she sneaks out of her house at like 11 o'clock at night and goes to this club with this other girl, and where there are other lesbian people that hang out there at the Telegraph Club. And it's interesting how it develops. This is one of the few books on our list that I would say has historical fiction in it, because throughout this book, the author at different points in the book talks about important events happening at that time period historically, and then related to the story that they're telling with this family. Anyways, I mentioned I've read lots of these books, and I really, really enjoyed this one. Girls will especially love this one. And I was telling Stephanie that there's only one male character in the book, and it's the father of the girl. And he's a pretty minor character. So all the characters in here are mostly female. But what goes on with their thinking, what happens to them, what happens between Lily and her girlfriend Kat, are all written in this book. So it's pretty interesting. And then if you click on the curriculum guide there, Stephanie, just so both April and Megan, you can get a sense of what our finished curriculum guides look like. If you want to, go to the bigger view. anyway, eventually all our curriculum guides will look the same. We'll have a total of 8 to 10. It's the very first page is going to have the title of the book, a little bit about the book. And then the second page is going to talk a little bit about the overview and which standards it fits to and the purpose of the curriculum guide, which literary elements they're focusing on. There'll always be a page that talks a little bit about the vocabulary to use in the curriculum guide and the different titles as well. And then most of the teachers have created either slides or Google Docs of other piece. So yeah, I think just this page is good enough. So this particular teacher created a pre-reading doc link, a character chart that you can use, and then the final projects that can be used. So we designed them intentionally so that you could pick and choose the parts that you most liked. So again, this one is the last night at the Telegraph Club, and this curriculum guide's pretty much finished. So all those pieces are there. There's also always a slide that talks a little bit about the author, and Melinda Lowe lives in Massachusetts with her wife and their dog, and has written lots of different novels over time. So that's a little bit about how the curriculum guides are organized. And we wanted to make sure you knew that as we get our other ones finished, you'll have access to those as well. Are there any questions? So Megan, your own book club. You're part of a book club, huh?
That's my own personal book club. Yeah, this one would be too
cool
for my students. Maybe some of them with parent permission would want to read this. But I was going to ask, I saw your lists. They came out. I keep up with the emails from the COE from our county superintendent, and that's where I saw your book lists first, which were great. And I want to say, first of all, how much I appreciated those, and my principal as well, because there were books on there that we had been getting challenges for. And to have yet another place to be like, look, these are ones that have made the county list of approval, besides all the other points.
Great.
But my question is, it was when you finish these curriculum guides, will they also go out through something like that? Will they be included in the COE email?
Absolutely. We're hoping to have them finished.
Resource.
Yep. We're hoping to have them finished in the next month. And since you're such a small group, we will make sure that you're invited to the special dinner that we're going to have at the end of November, when we hope to have all of these finished and really just celebrate all of this work. So, so you two get to come to the free dinner. Hopefully you can attend.
Special invitation.
What is that date? November? Is it November 29th, Stephanie?
That is correct. Yeah, it's a Tuesday.
All right, November 29th. There we go. Yeah, so it's going to be at the county office, and we'll have some of the teachers there presenting their curriculum guides and reviewing that. And one of the authors in one of the books, James Brandon, who wrote Ziggy, Stardust, and Me, will be our guest speaker at that event as well. So anyway, so we will have a real live author at that event, and you're both welcome to that. I think maybe we should invite all the librarians, because I know how much we like, talking to authors, right? We'll see how our sign up list goes, but for sure, you two are invited. All right, Stephanie, let's see what's next on our slides here. So what we were hoping to do with our workshop was to have you share your ideas. But since we're such a small group, perhaps you want to type, Stephanie, and I'll talk, or
yeah, that works. Yeah,
I think, but let's do this. Let's give the both of you a chance to just look over this list, and I'll put the link again in the chat. Just go look at this list and let's take about 5 minutes to just read over it. And as you're reading these descriptions, if you get a great idea of how this could be used in a classroom, just make a note of it, or you can type it on the Google Doc. And let us give you at least 5 minutes to just kind of browse through these books, think about them, think about how you might use them in a classroom, and then let's talk about it. But I think I'll stop talking now and just let the two of you look at the list of books and see what ideas you think about. And And since you're both elementary, well, you can pick whatever books you're interested in. So I'll give you a chance to read. So why don't we come back together at 5 o'clock? So that'll give us a good 6 minutes of reading time.
Okay.
And why don't we stop the recording at this point?
The Little Library, a book I love called The Little Library. That's about a little free library that a boy builds his library, and like he doesn't like getting books at all, and she turns him on to this like how to build a book, and he's obsessed with it. Over the summer, she lets him keep it, and he builds a little free library for their school. But they are a non-binary librarian, and it's very subtle.
Ah,
There. And I love books that way. And I would think like taking some of these and just figuring out where in your curriculum through the year would they fit,
oh, great.
and weaving it in that way.
Could you type the title and author of that book you just talked
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
in the
perfect.
chat when you get a chance? April, what did you come up with?
Well, I felt like that's a really great list, and Julian as a Mermaid is the only one we already have, so that gives me a good launch place to go buy those books. And also, I was thinking, just like Megan was saying, just kind of, yeah, we're not going to just read LGBTQ books today. It's going to be just, here's a great book about families, or here's in our story times. I was thinking, like in our OPAC catalog, we have Pathfinders, so maybe including
Oh,
a great Pathfinder there for students or families too who are interested in building on what I already have. But those would be great. Maybe even adding a link to that in our newsletter, so that parents can kind of see what kind of resources we have, because we have parents that check out as well. I was thinking like The Moon Within might be a really great book set for fourth grade,
oh, perfect.
fourth and fifth grade. And that might be a good place to buy a set. And maybe even doing like some just regular like bookmarks in the class. I mean, in the library, just if kids want to pick them up and are
Mhm.
curious, or doing the purple stickers like
Yeah.
Blue has for on the spines, and we have stickers for many things. So
Oh, cool.
why not? You've got
Add one
historical
more.
fiction. Yeah, we have historical fiction stickers. We have all kinds of stickers. So add on another one, and just
Yeah.
create an awareness of diverse collections. And but those are really great stories.
Yeah. I'm curious about the Pathfinder you talked about. Do you librarians across Santa Cruz City Schools share those Pathfinders, or are they pretty much school by school?
It's right now they're pretty much school by school, and but we meet as a group, and maybe we can share those within each the schools. We do have a union catalog too, but I don't know that the Pathfinders go
Right.
merge that way. But
I see. Yeah.
we could share our resources that way, and
Yeah.
and
If you
see.
do develop the beginning of that Pathfinder, could you email it to Stephanie and me?
Of course.
Because I'd be interested in seeing that, because it's another access point, right, for students and for adults in the school, and how you structure that would be I'm so glad you mentioned that. So yeah. Stephanie, if you could scroll down to the very last title on this list, I wanted just to show April and Megan what our thinking was on this. So the very last book, I just finished rereading Ziggy Stardust to Me, because James Brandon's going to be our speaker here. We're doing a County Office of Education LGBTQ town hall on October 12th, and he's going to be a speaker there and a speaker at our dinner. So I thought I should be up to date on his book, and I just finished it. And so, to help high school teachers, there's great Native American, and there's very few books that talk about two-spirit people, fiction books that talk about two-spirit people, and the historical fiction that's related to this, and the American Psychiatric Association. It wasn't until 1973 that they declassified homosexuality as being an illness, but that's all talked about and integrated into this book in a great number of ways. So I just share that back to say, we thought that these kinds of topics would be useful for teachers. Would you agree with that, that these types of access points or ideas are helpful? Or is there something else? It's kind of like your Pathfinder idea in a different way. Any other thoughts from your two?
Oh, Megan, we missed what you're, no, sorry.
Maybe you could type a little bit for us, Megan, and we could at least put it up for the recording because we're not hearing your voice.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's really important. I'm sorry we can't hear you. So any final thoughts from you, April, before we close things out?
I just that I appreciate this list and the all the details and the usage of all the books. That's just it's going to be really helpful.
Oh, good. Okay, so we'll keep working on it. And do your school librarians get together in Santa Cruz City Schools, April?
We do.
How often do you meet and how long?
Elementary meets every once a month, and then it seems about like quarterly we meet as a whole
group.
team.
How long when you get together do you spend together?
Oh, from 1:30 until we try to end at 4 or so.
Oh, cool. So if I would love to come to one of those meetings and kind of do a part of this where we could all brainstorm together how we could make these useful in Santa Cruz City Schools. And then Megan, I'd say the same thing to you. I know Peggy Pugh, I think, is overseeing the librarians in PVSD, and I've interacted with her a bit. But anyway, just it would be great to get on those agendas if it works out. Yeah,
I'll bring that to our group and
great.
make it happen.
Yep, I used to oversee all the school librarians in Clovis Unified School District for about 4 years. So anyway, so Stephanie, should we kind of share our final slides to finish up?
Yeah, and I just wanted to just call out what Megan's added, that she was going to share that a book is a great starting point for conversation, and totally agree. And also for PVSD, the librarians meet just 4 times a year, and Peggy is new to overseeing this year.
Great. Good to get that on a recording.
Yes. All right, 1 second.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary to do this slide. I think, probably the final note to all of you is that we are pleased that you were part of this. The links are there. I think we could do a follow-up and send out the recording and the links to everybody who did sign up, and April and Megan did, and we're going to send you extra special invitations to come to our dinner for sure. And if you want to share that with 1 or 2 other people who you consider your friends in your district, you can certainly let them know. It's won't be till November, but we'll send that out to the both of you. And I look forward to seeing you in person, and hopefully we can interact with your school districts in other ways. Any other final words from you, Steph?
Yeah, just thank you so much, both of you, for coming. And it was really nice to see you again, April. And it was really nice to meet you, Megan.
Thank you for the presentation. It was wonderful.
Great. And then Megan, hopefully I can just walk down and meet you in person sometime. So send me an email.
All right, perfect. Thank you.